What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are back with Doctor Doom, the conclusion, and the ending of this is crazy. It's amazing, right? But to get everybody caught up, because it's been a little while since we did this, that the Doctor Doom story really kind of has two stories going on at the same time. The first is the Ant-Leon Collider storyline, and the second is what's going on with Doctor Doom. That what had happened with the Ant-Leon Collider is this was a scientific experiment, right? It was headed up by Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four and other world-renowned scientists, and it was really just like the pursuit of science and how to deal with matter that would otherwise be impossible to dispose of and different things like that. The Doctor Doom portion is interjected when a coup d'etat in Latveria originates in the neighboring country of Samkaria, and those individuals who wanted to seize control of Latveria effectively snuck in and then launched missiles from Latveria to the moon, which basically ruined the experiment, but created an artificial black hole. And so the black hole is basically growing in mass to the point where it'll suck up everything in the solar system, but because it originated from Latveria, everybody thought it was the fault of Doctor Doom. So he had basically been on the run this whole time. Well, the way this picks up is it picks up with Adam Brashear, the Blue Marvel, basically traveling into the black hole for the purpose of using his power to try to cancel out the black hole and then literally dissipate it, is basically what would happen. For Doctor Doom, he's returning to Latveria now. So what we're gonna do here is with the Adam Brashear portion, it's not overly necessary at this point in time, but the whole gist behind this is that as he travels into the black hole, that the mission again is for him to basically expound as much of his energy as he possibly can, literally channel it outward inside the event horizon of the black hole, or really inside the singularity, and then basically collapse the black hole and then make it out before he's ultimately destroyed. Now, obviously, this is a Marvel comic. It's defying all laws of physics as we know them, because nothing escapes a black hole. That's the significance of a black hole. So as Adam Brashear gets into this, there's a few things that happen. One, he's met by an alternate reality version of Otto Octavius. And that's when we end up finding out these different visions that Doctor Doom has been having over the course of this story, where he has like a different life. He basically leads the world into a kind of scientific age of enlightenment, really, where he has like a wife and children and so on. That's what's on the other side of this black hole. It's a wormhole, is really what it is, right? It's a tunnel that leads from the main Marvel universe to this alternate reality. And that what's been happening is Doctor Doom has been receiving visions from this alternate reality of what his life in that universe looks like. But the other part of this, and for reasons that I'll never fully understand, Christopher Cantwell invokes the Brood, right? So like this crazy looking alien race like attacks, and of course Adam Brashear basically fights them off, but it also leads to Dr. Octopus being killed in the process, right? This alternate reality, Otto Octavius being killed. But before we find out what really happens there, what we end up doing is jumping back to Victor Von Doom, right? Now with his arrival in Latveria, you do have what are basically is kind of inner council, right? So you got Boris, you got Petra, Laren, a few other people, but you also have Christophe Renard. Now the reason why these guys matter is because one, Christophe Renard is the heir to the throne. So as soon as this coup d'etat happened, Christophe Renard was like public enemy number 2. Dr. Doom, of course, being public enemy number 1 because he was still alive out there somewhere. But Christophe Renard is like the adopted child of Dr. Doom. And in fact, he's gone so far over the course of his publication history to take his own mind and use Christophe Renard as a backup for it. So as we saw in Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four, for example, if something happened to Dr. Doom and he lost his level of intelligence, he could download his mind from Christophe Renard, and it would be like restoring your PC, right? That's literally what it is here. And so Christophe Renard is so important because he's the rightful heir to Latveria. Now you've also got Zora, also known as Victorious. She was at one point a kind of herald to a degree of Galactus when he showed up on Earth, but has largely been like the number 2 in terms of Dr. Doom's control of the military and so on, one of his most trusted confidants. But that's really what's happening here, is because when they're out there just kind of surviving and whatnot, and Dr. Doom shows up on the scene, it's Dr. Doom riding a bear, which is probably one of the most baller things that I think I've ever seen Dr. Doom. I mean, he just looks menacing, right? Like literally he's like riding a bear and he's like, I have returned. And like you see that and you're like, yep, he's returned. And we're not gonna argue with that, are we guys? And it's like, nope, we're not gonna argue with that at all, because the dude is riding a bear and none of us wants to die. Not only that, his bear is his pet. He named him, right? Like literally his name is Novak. And it's not even his pet. He's like, this is my comrade Novak. See that he's fed, right? So like, it's one of those cool things because for all the pomp and circumstance and all the arrogance that Dr. Doom puts out there to the world, the reality here is he's gooey on the inside, right? Like he's gooey, soft, right? Gentle. He's got a little bit of sensitivity on the inside there, right? So you wouldn't know it, right? But it's one of those funny things. So as soon as he arrives here, what he says, and literally addressing his inner council, is he's like, this coup d'etat originated from inside Latveria, as far as I'm aware, and of course it started in Symkaria. But the reality here is that I ruled this country with trust. I trusted my people. I trusted that they would not overthrow me. Now he does trust to a degree, but he also recognizes they could do that. And in fact, that was highlighted in Hickman's Avengers, A New Avengers, when he was talking, oh my God, when he was talking to Namor the Submariner in one of the best moments ever. So literally, like when the multiverse is falling apart, and after Namor the Submariner had made his alliance with like Thanos and all those guys, only to find out that Thanos is exactly what we thought he was, which was just a crazy guy that loves to kill stuff. He abandons the Cabal. He shows up at Dr. Doom's doorstep and is like, you've got to help me. And Dr. Doom's like, okay, so here's the thing, Namor. I'm a king. You were a king once upon a time. You understand the bigger picture here, right? Like, do you really think the people in Latveria wouldn't kill me if they chose to? Of course they would. He's like, but I feed them and I protect them. I keep them safe from whatever threats are out there. So before they pray to whatever god they believe in when they go to sleep at night, they give thanks to me. It's like one of the greatest speeches ever, right? And then he tells Namor the Submariner, you're on your own, right? You threw in your lot with Reed Richards and then you went to Thanos and now you show up on my doorstep asking me for help? No, sir. Dr. Doom is no one's second choice. He literally just rejects him just because of the fact that he felt like he was a second choice. It was an amazing moment in Marvel Comics. But the thing about this is that as he talks to them, he does know that at any point in time, his own citizenry could literally rise up against him. But it's the fact that it's happened that now he questions everybody. So he tells them all, you're going to prove to me that I should trust you. And as each person goes in turn and provides their own swearing of loyalty to Dr. Doom, we meet up with a guy named Vasily Mikheyev, I think is how you pronounce his name. And it's one of these things because as Dr. Doom starts asking him questions like, you know, how in the world do you think this happened? How do you think this whole coup took place? The response of Vasily is, well, it's obviously traitors in our midst, right? Subverting our security, different things like that. And Doom says, allow me to read you something. And what ended up happening here is that Dr. Doom reads a letter that was written by Vasily to basically a woman named Katarina, who is a Symkarian. And so that's when Dr. Doom and really Vasily starts to realize Dr. Doom already knows Vasily's one of the traitors, that he's one of the people who worked against Dr. Doom in order to orchestrate the coup d'etat in Latveria. And so once this comes to fruition, Vasily can't really lie. Like, he can't really make anything up, right? It's, at this point, if Dr. Doom asks him, what do you know about this letter? Assume it's rhetorical. Assume he already knows the answer. And so that's when Vasily is just like, okay, right, the jig is up. Like, there's nothing he could do. And Dr. Doom tells him, I'll give you a 2-minute running start. This guy hauls ass out the door because he knows Dr. Doom well enough to know he's not messing around. Dr. Doom walks out there, and at 1 minute, 59 seconds, the clock strikes 2 minutes. He fires the shot and kills Vasily on the spot. And then he's like, feed him to my bear. And like, that's it. That's how Dr. Doom gets things done, guys, right? I love how he's handled. I love the way Christopher Cantwell writes Dr. Doom here. It's absolutely phenomenal. But the other part of this is he actually ends up meeting with Victorious. Now, he knows Victorious well enough to know there's no way she'd be involved in a coup d'etat against him, right? So for you know, to a degree, she kind of gets a pass. But what he does is he presents her with the ultimate nullifier and says the ultimate nullifier takes an astronomically focused mind in order to use it. Otherwise, the user will destroy themselves or accidentally cause any manner of things to come to an end. So I'm giving it to you to hold on to for safekeeping because my mind is not as focused as it used to be. But then following that, he travels directly to his castle in Latveria. And it's one of the coolest moments because when the coup d'etat took place, a guy named Dmitry Fortunov was basically put in charge of Latveria as the new ruler of the kingdom. He's more of a puppet than anything else, kind of the guy who's there to make it look like he's running the show when in reality, he's just being told what to do. So basically any American politician. And the reality of this is that when Dr. Doom shows up, he's just kind of like the ruler of Latveria. An impressive title, Dmitry, right? An impressive title. You must carry it with dignity. Stand stand up straight. After all, you're king, and hold your head high. He who reigns looks down on those who don't. But something's missing. Yes, a true leader must have this. And that's when Dr. Doom removes his helmet and shows his face and says, if you are going to be the leader of Latveria, this is what you must look like. And he forces this guy to start cutting his own face up, right? To disfigure his own face. And then he says, the ruler of Latveria must also be a god, Dimitri, right? Can you fly as a god flies? And then he throws him over the banisters and the guy falls to his death. And he's like, alas, a mere mortal. Quite the pity. But then in that moment, he actually ends up getting a vision of his kids from the alternate reality, but they've cut their faces up to look like him. And the view of it is so astronomically crushing to him that he actually sort of collapses on the spot, right? He almost passes out from the strain. Because remember, these visions that he has of his kids, of the life that he could have, it's what he aspires to. It's what he wants. It's almost like this life that's unsullied by everything that exists out there in the world right now. And so what he does is he kind of gives us this little bit of a monologue where he says that over time, once he was met by Victorious, and I wouldn't say nursed back to health, but Victorious was able to help him regain his bearings, Dr. Doom basically he literally takes his throne back. And with him having the ultimate nullifier, one of the things to understand is the world is scared out of its wits now. Under any normal circumstance, the world would look at Dr. Doom retaking Latveria with a bit of a questionable eye and just kind of be like, can we really trust this guy? But the dude's got the ultimate nullifier in his possession. And Dr. Doom, as far as the world is concerned, albeit the world doesn't know the current goings on of his mental state, but the world sees Dr. Doom and believes this guy having the ultimate nullifier is enough to literally wipe out the entirety of the universe. Like that in the blink of an eye. And so no one really questions what it is that he wants. And in fact, he goes as far as to say, like, now that I've taken my throne back, I don't want to conquer the world. I don't want to take over the world. I have no grand aspirations for anything like that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put down this rebellion that had taken place in Latveria. I'm going to rout out everybody who was from Sincaria that caused this coup d'etat in the first place. And then I'm going to take Sincaria. And that's going to be it. And the world doesn't stand in his way. So literally, this guy launches an attack against the neighboring country. And let me tell you something, man. This guy, they were not prepared. This guy comes in and it's just like, it's hell, it's fire and brimstone, right? It's Old Testament, man. This guy comes in and he's literally like, I seized control of this entire country. I conquered everything, right? He says like the Simkarian invasion was over quickly. My blood became charged with the verve as we stamped out every conspiratorial smudge of scum, every whisper of usurping vermin. I even dusted off my old blaster buggy, which is an actual thing that he used to have back in the day. I haven't driven in ages. What fun it was to lay waste to so much at such invigorating speeds. Here was Doom at his greatest. I am a strong proponent of total war and no quarter. If you're going to break the back of an entire nation, you might as well do it right. We even killed most of the livestock. They just clean slated Simcaria, and it was as much of a message as it was anything else. This guy goes full on Kaiser Sose, right? I don't know if we ever ran over that, right? But like Kaiser Sose, the story of Kaiser Sose is amazing, right? We're gonna kind of scroll comment panel so you guys to see what's going on. But the story of Kaiser Sose is amazing because for those of you guys who never heard about this, it was from The Usual Suspects, right? And it's literally Kevin Spacey who gives the story, and he says that Kaiser Sose was just like this drug runner, right? This guy that ran like a small little drug operation, and that was it. But you had these Hungarian warlords that wanted to basically make a name for themselves. And what they knew is that true power is not how much you have and how much you control, it's about your willingness to do what the other guy won't. So these Hungarian warlords, I think they were Hungarian, basically show up at Kaiser Sose's home. They find his wife and kids, right? They basically do what they will with his family, and when Kaiser Sose gets back, he finds his wife has been violated and his kids are crying. And so these guys literally tell him, we want your whole operation. We want it all. We want the drugs, the money, we want your contacts, the whole 9 yards, right? They wanted to show Kaiser Sose that they were men of will, that they were willing to do whatever it took. And so Kaiser Sose showed these men of will just what will really was. This guy killed his wife and his kids. And then he executed every single one of the Hungarian warlords except for one. And then he let that guy go and tell the tale. And then once all these guys, like once his family was buried, then he goes to work, right? He killed these Hungarian warlords' parents. He killed their parents' friends. He burned down the homes that they lived in. He burned down the businesses they worked out of. He killed the people who owed them money. And then he vanished. And that was it, right? You never found out what happened to Kaiser Sose after that. Well, you do, but you got to watch The Usual Suspects to find out. That's literally what this is, man. That's literally what this is. It's like that guy said to John Lithgow in that movie Ricochet. You didn't beat him. You just pissed him off, and now you're fucked, because now he's going to be out for blood. And so what we end up doing here is we basically switch over to Dr. Doom basically finding Katarina, right after the letter that he read to Vasily. He ends up taking one of his swords. Him and Katarina get in a sword fight. He cuts her down, and that's the end of it. Following that, Katarina tells him, I'm not the one who started the coup d'etat in Latveria from Sinkaria. I'm not the one who caused it. Instead, she points him to the person who did. And what he ends up revealing is that it's a woman he's never met. He doesn't know who she is, doesn't know what she's about. But ultimately, these people launched the rebellion against Dr. Doom from Sinkaria to seize control of Latveria, and that this woman herself had a daughter. And the daughter that she had was basically left behind when this woman fled after her husband was killed. This woman's been in Sinkaria ever since and been plotting to overthrow Dr. Doom. But her daughter was taken by the rebel forces that sided with Dr. Doom and then raised as their own. The girl is victorious. That literally the number two commander of Dr. Doom's army actually has Sinkarian blood. Now, Victorious wasn't working against Dr. Doom, and in fact, she didn't even know her own heritage. She didn't know that this woman who had orchestrated this whole coup in Latveria was her own mom. She had no idea that was the case. And so instead, what Dr. Doom does, really with Zora herself, is he orders her to kill this woman after telling Victorious that this woman is her mom. And while Victorious does follow the orders as they were given to her, at the end of the day, Dr. Doom assumed that Victorious wouldn't really care, that she would just see this woman as Sinkarian scum, as a rebel, right? A person who tried to orchestrate a revolt. Instead, while it doesn't necessarily lead Victorious to turning against Dr. Doom entirely, it does permanently fracture the relationship between the two of them. She doesn't trust him as much anymore, and she doesn't look at him the same way anymore. Following that, every single person who was in some capacity associated with the coup d'etat in Latveria from Sinkaria, whether they're in Latveria as collaborators and orchestrators, or whether they're from Sinkaria or not, it doesn't matter. They're all summarily executed by firing squad. So literally, like, Dr. Doom takes no prisoners. And the funny thing about this, as this kind of final act, is what he does is he muses to himself, and he says, despite all this violence and all these things that he's done, at the end of the day, he has no intention of staying this way. That what he's going to do is he's going to travel to the moon, he's going to find a solution to fix this whole Antlion Collider problem, and then he's going to become the version of himself that he saw in his visions. The version of himself that, by all standards of measurement, is much better and far more peaceful than he is right now, and has led the world into a place where it becomes more advanced, right? Basically ushering in a new era. But notice this, Dr. Doom's not doing it because it's the right thing to do. None of it comes from an altruistic motive. He's doing it because he sees it as his best possible chance to rule the world. And so following this, once he completes all of his research and everything and literally develops a plan, that what he says is he's kind of devised a whole like laser and experiment and so on, which is way beyond my ability to comprehend. But basically it keeps getting fired into the black hole, which will help to reduce the black hole in size. The problem with this is that Dr. Doom's ego becomes his own problem. That what happens here is that as he talks to Reed Richards, who literally just wants to wish him good luck, Dr. Doom's own ego and really his own self-consciousness starts to become an issue when he starts to believe that Reed has an ulterior motive. That Reed's just like, yeah, good luck, Dr. Doom. You're gonna need it, man. Because maybe Reed Richards has realized something about Dr. Doom's experiment that Dr. Doom didn't realize himself. But because of how much he hates Reed, and because of all the insecurity that he has in this comparison to Reed, that he actually starts recalculating all of his experiments. He basically starts to second guess himself. And when that happens, he makes a fatal error. Because when he does, the machine fires off, it hits the moon, and it blows part of the moon in half. And then following that, Dr. Doom disappears. And so when that happens, he basically wakes up in this alternate reality, in this alternate universe where he's met by his alternate self. And this is where things get really, really cool, because as he meets this alternate reality version of himself, he doesn't really attack him, right? Instead, he's just like, I want to learn. I want to know how it was you successfully managed to conquer the world. Now notice the conversation between these two is starkly different, because this good version of Doom, right, we'll call him Victor, right? Victor does not use phrases like, here's how I conquer the world, here's how I subjugated humanity, different things like that. It's we and us. It's a collaborative effort from his perspective, whereas Dr. Doom is seeing it as, you did something that allowed you to seize control of the entire world. And it's one of those cool things, because Adam Brashear survived everything that had gone on, and in fact, he ended up in this alternate reality as well. And what really Adam Brashear says is that the visions that Dr. Doom has been having of Victor's life, where he's got a wife and kids and the world adores him and loves him, that the reality is it's a mirror, that what Victor's been receiving is really the life of Dr. Doom. And so it's one of those things where Victor looks at Dr. Doom and his actions in the main Marvel universe and being a kind of warlord and all that kind of stuff as a nightmare, right? He sees it as like the worst possible version of himself that he could potentially be. Whereas Dr. Doom looks at Victor and sees Victor as what could be the best version of himself. But again, the motivations are different. Victor is afraid of the life that he would have as Dr. Doom because he becomes a warlord. Dr. Doom loves the life that Victor has because it allows him to achieve his ultimate goal as a warlord. So again, totally different motivations, totally different perspectives, but at the end of the day, they are in some capacity mirrors of each other. And that's what's so cool here, because as they begin to talk, this Victor personality kind of starts to rub off on Dr. Doom to a degree, right? Where Dr. Doom is perceiving all of this as Victor just because he's so much smarter than everybody. And like, that's it. But one of the things Victor says is, you're wrong about that. And I want to hear you say that you're wrong. I want to hear you tell me that you were wrong. And the response of Doom is, I was wrong, right? And it's really hard for him to say because he's got to swallow his pride to do it. But then they get to the home of Victor, which is a really nice and beautiful home, but it's not the castle of Doomstadt in Latveria. And Dr. Doom asks Victor, like, why would you give up our birthright? Why would you give up this castle to live in this hovel, as he calls it, right? Like this small home that just does not really stand as a testament to the greatness of who we are. And the response of Victor is, because none of this is about how great I am. None of this is about how awesome and intelligent I, as Victor Von Doom, am. That's not what this is supposed to be. This was all done for the legitimate betterment of humanity, to make the world a better place for people. More so than that, what he also says is, you are looking at this and you're really looking at the world from your own limited perspective. You look at it in terms of what you can make the world into being. I look at the world from the perspective of, what can I and the rest of humanity turn the world into? What can we make the world? Because it's one of those things where he says the result is that regardless of how you perceive humanity, whether you're exceedingly misanthropic and make this argument that the human race is the worst thing to happen to Earth, or you're more optimistic where you say the potential of humanity far outweighs the terrible things that we've done, the reality is that the human race is greater than the sum of its parts. As a singular entity with a singular ideology and a motive, the human race cannot be stopped from achieving anything, but instead it's literally barriers between countries, and it's motivations from world leaders, right, and different things like that. It's the limited perception of the world by humanity that makes humanity so limited. And so when he's like, once you start breaking that down, the possibilities are endless. And what he reveals is it's like, this isn't just Earth where this happens. Every single race across the universe, we all collaborate now. The Shi'ar, the Kree, the Skrull, the Badoon, the whole nine yards, we share information, we share technology, that we protect those civilizations as much as they protect us. And while our technology was vastly more limited than theirs, because humanity as a whole had not achieved interstellar travel, there was a level of power regarding various superheroes that exist on Earth that those other civilizations didn't have. So we let them have some stuff, they let us have some stuff, and the universe is better off for it. And that's what's so fascinating here, because even Victor says, like, all these grand weapons that exist out there and these grand powers, the Infinity Stones, the Cosmic Cube, the Crimson Gem of Sidorak, you know, the Casket of Ancient Winters, the Darkhold, there's no need for those things anymore. There's no need for these crazy, you know, artifacts of power, because because nobody really views the world in such a limited capacity in that way anymore. We don't need it. We do what's right because it's best for humanity. And so as this whole conversation takes place, that what Victor tells Dr. Doom is, you can achieve this. You can do this on your own home world. You can literally bring this world, or really bring what I've done, to your own world, but you're going to have to drop this facade. You're going to have to drop this armor that you have. You're going to have to learn to forgive guys like Richards, and you're going to have to heal your face. And he says the reason why you have to heal your face is because you know just as well as I do, at any point in time, you could heal your face. You could restore your face back to a sense of normalcy, but you choose not to, because having a scarred face allows you to remember how humanity has wronged you. That instead of becoming one with humanity and leading humanity, you want to subjugate the human race because you see yourself as better than them. You are the very definition of a misanthropic narcissist, right? Like, you believe people don't matter and they should be subjected or subjugated because you're somehow more capable than they are. And he says, think about it for a moment, Victor. It's all a farce, a desperate and honestly pathetic attempt to conceal your endless fear. It currently permeates every fiber of your existence, all the way down to the silly finger guns in your metal gauntlet hand. It's all ludicrous. Your entire mode of being is ludicrous. You know that I'm right. And when he says that, it's the final straw. Dr. Doom kills Victor on the spot. Then he seizes control of the ultimate nullifier in this alternate reality and wipes out the whole universe. Literally kills the whole universe on the spot. He ends up having, taking Adam Brashear out, and Adam Brashear arrives back on Earth. But Dr. Doom is just like, no, I will not have it said that I, Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom, the smartest being in existence, has somehow joined the limited intellectual minds of humanity, and I've somehow become a part of them. I don't want to be infected by the human race. I don't want to be that kind of a person. If the human race will become better, it's because I will make them better. I will lead them into becoming better, because I will subjugate them and turn them into something better. But if humanity could be better, it would have already been better by now. Humanity doesn't want to be better because people are stupid, but I will make them better. And so it's like the most misanthropic thing ever, right? But literally wipes out a whole universe on the spot, kills that entire universe, and then just goes back to his castle, and it's just like, nope, I'm him. Like, I'm Dr. Doom. There's not 1 ounce of good in me, and there never ever will be. And that's when Kang reappears to Victor Von Doom, and it's just like, so I see that you're back on your throne. And the response of Victor is, yes, I will not become that guy. He is a weak, mewling, pathetic version of me, and that's never going to be what's going to happen to Dr. Doom. If I conquer this world, it'll be with an iron fist. And all Kang the Conqueror does is just look on and basically smile. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if it was the manipulation of Kang that led to this, but seemingly Kang always knew how this was going to turn out. It was simply just up to Dr. Doom to figure it out on his own. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. Amazing story. I loved it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.